Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope your day is going wonderful. Welcome back to my channel. Today is day 10. We're 10 days into the Spellbinders Crafty Advent Calendar, and I'm excited to get to open up another Crafty Surprise with day 10's envelope. So let's open up our Advent Calendar. Gotta find day 10. It's nice because your little pockets too stay closed, and I've been keeping my dies where they go in it. But I'm sure I'll find a home when I'm all done. Okay, day 10, gotta focus. Let's open this up here. Okay, everyone, I have some bad news. Well, since we couldn't find my day today, what I had did was kind of peeked at some at the bottom where I heard some shaking, and that was actually some missing. They were just loose, floating around dies. So one of the packaging, or two of the packaging actually, was loose, and so I had some dies floating around in my advent calendar. And then as I was trying to find the missing one, there was a few items that were floating around in here. But as I was finding the missing one, I noticed that one of my die sets was doubled up. So I have two of the same. And so as I was trying to figure out what was missing, I kind of jumbled some of my items together, and so I think this will be my last post with the Spellbinders Crafty Advent Calendar. It has been so much fun. I'm not going to tell you what was in the others because I don't want to spoil it for you, but I'm going to make my final card today with the Advent Calendar, just because I kind of messed it up by opening the rest of the windows, and you're going to love everything in here. I can promise you that. But today will be my final post with the Advent Calendar. So thanks for joining me. I think this is a fabulous value, and I know you're going to love all the crafty surprises. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and, I don't know if the thank you was today's or not, because I had a few things that were loose in my calendar, but I'm going to use this for my project today. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in and get started. For today's card, I'm going to create a card base that's the same size as my regular note card. So we're going to make a small note card. This measures 2 3/4 inches wide by 4 inches tall, and I created this with alabaster cardstock. So this is not white, it's an off-white. I did that because I wanted to use the sequins, and this alabaster works really pretty with the sequins. Okay, and then also for today's project, I want to bring in the embossing folder that we got, and also the stamp set. We're going to use this on our card. So we're going to start by taking a piece of that alabaster cardstock, and I'm going to run this through my die cut machine, and we're going to emboss a 1.5 inch panel for our card today. So I'm going to run this through my die cut machine, and then also we are going to die cut out thank you with black cardstock, and this is a shadow die, so you have the thank and the you, and then I'm going to take the shadow and I'll die cut this out with the same alabaster cardstock. So I'll just die cut out my shadow with that. So I'm going to run this through my die cut machine, and then we're going to do a little bit of stamping for our card. Okay, I went ahead and die cut everything out and embossed my panel. And you know what I love about this embossing folder is it will emboss, it's different pattern on each side. So the last time we used this embossing folder, I used this side. For today's card, I'm going to use the reverse side that has the thin raised embossing. Okay, and then I did die cut also out some with the outline or the shadow die here. I die cut out the thank you with the pop-up foam. This way we can adhere this to the back, and I don't have to fuss it with some thin strips. I'm going to zoom in, and then we're going to add our thank and our you to our shadow. And I'm just going to use a little bit of glue here. I'm going to grab my craft mat. And I'll just flip this to the reverse side. And I'm just going to use a little bit of glue here. And we'll tack this down to the shadow. Okay, and I'll do the same thing with the U. So I have my thank and my U, and then I'm going to take my foam, flip it off. Then I'll take my sentiment, I'm going to flip this around. I'm going to add some glue behind here. And then we're going to tack this down to our foam. Sometimes die cutting it with the foam makes it so easier if you want some dimension to it. It just makes it a lot nicer than adding some really thin foam strips. Okay, we'll just tack this down. And our sentiment is done with a little bit of dimension. Now I had created a real pretty floral arrangement with the stamp set. For today, I'm just going to use this flower and this leaf. So I'm going to bring in some white cardstock and an acrylic block, actually a couple of them. And we're going to stamp the flower twice, and then we're going to add the leaves to this also. I'm going to stamp a couple flowers with some coral color inks, and one's a lighter and one's a darker. And I'll stamp this, and then we'll stamp it with the darker ink. It's almost like a shade darker. Wonderful. I think I'm going to stamp this one more time. That one looks a lot better. And the color will pull back a little bit also. And then I'm going to take two different shades of green ink and using my leaf, and there is a little curve on it that will go perfectly around your flower. And I'm going to stamp this a couple times. I like an odd number of leaves. So I'm going to stamp one more over here. And then we'll do the same to this side. Just going around those florals. And then we're going to take the small vein portion, the second layer. And using the darker green, we're just going to add a little bit of highlight to each of these leaves. Wonderful. Okay, so our florals are done. I'm going to fussy cut each one of these out. Just using my scissors here. When I fussy cut, I like to cut them away individually. It just makes it easier. Because when I fussy cut, I turn the paper and not the scissors. And I'm going to leave a little bit of a border around each of my florals. Okay, so our florals are all done. In our stamp set, there is a flower center. I'm going to stamp that. Last time I stamped it with my black ink, and I love the contrast that it created. So I'm going to do the same thing. This time I'm just going to use my VersaFine ink. And we'll stamp this flower center right in the middle. VersaFine is a pigment ink, so it does stay sticky. You're going to need to give this a little bit of time to dry. Otherwise, definitely will smear that. Okay, we're going to make a landscape style card. So I'm going to take my card base. The alabaster cardstock is a heavyweight from Spellbinders, so it's a really thick one. So I'm going to actually use my tape runner and tack this closed. so I can work on the front here. Now I'm going to take my striped embossed stripe panel. I'm going to add adhesive behind it, and we're going to tack this about 1/4 inch from the very top. And then I'm going to trim off the excess here. And then I went through my cardstock and found a couple of strips that coordinate with my inks. And these are going to go on the very bottom. I'm going to go ahead and take the darkest. Well, and then just using my glue, I'm going to add a thin bead. We have a friend who popped up here to say hello. Hello. She's a calico kitty. Her name is Chance. She's been really lovey lately. Such a sweet kitty. I'm just going to add a thin bead of glue on this strip. And while I'm at it, I'm going to add a thin bead on this one too. And then we'll add the darker one, and I'm going to put this right up against that alabaster cardstock. Line that up. And then I'll do the same. Line this one up, the lighter color, right up against that darker corally color. I better zoom back in so you can see. Once we have this done, I have a little overhanging. I'll trim this off with my scissors. And I'm loving these little note cards. These are so nice. I'm going to go ahead and take my thank you. We're going to flip this around, and then I'm going to use my glue and add it behind that pop-up foam. You know, I think I'm going to bring in some black and white baker's twine. So I'm going to go ahead and add some twine, covering the seam. Okay, so we have our bow. I've put it all the way to the right here because I'm not sure where my florals are going to go. And then before we add our U, I'm going to turn around my florals. We're going to add some foam squares behind here. I'll just remove the release paper, and I want these to kind of overlap. Now I mentioned that we're going to bring in some of those ivory sequins. It doesn't look like a very big bad, but there's a lot in here. And using my glue, we're going to add some sequins for a little bit of shine. And then I think that was the perfect amount of sparkle, and then that will finish off my card. This is my final card again for the Spellbinders Crafty Advent Calendar. I'm so sorry, but it was just a little confusing to me, and I just am not sure where to go. I wasn't even sure if I should post this video today, but I did want to share an explanation. But I thank you so much for joining me. I wish you a wonderful day. Have a blast opening up the rest of your Crafty Advent Calendar. I know you guys are going to love everything in it. I'm super, I was super excited about it, but I was saddened that I had to open them all up. But I want to thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you again soon.